The Baltimore Orioles are calling up yet another top prospect. Stay locked on as Matt and I break down that and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ane, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly, truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes to the channel and gives you notification every time we drop a new episode. And today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit is only available to you as customers. And dive on into the ultimate fantasy baseball experience in our exclusive Locked On Fantasy Baseball hat giveaway. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see Matt and I are rocking them. They are beautiful, if I may say so myself. Actually, exclusively designed by Matt. So huge shout out to Matt on that. Guys, you can score big by simply sharing any of our posts on X or Instagram. Each share earns you an entry into the draw. The more you share, the greater your chances are of winning. Don't miss out. The drawing will be held on June 14th, so get in the game now. And Matt, we teased it a bit at the top. The Baltimore Orioles are stacked. Which prospect are they calling up, brother?
They're definitely going after my boy Connor Norby. One of my favorite prospects this year. Apparently he's not a top 100 prospect this year, which is the most surprising thing that just has to hit me in the face. He's a really incredible player, truthfully. For him to be the sixth is just speaking of the volumes of what kind of system they have right now over in Baltimore. But, this is what he's done so far on the year, right? 206 at-bats, 42 runs, 17 doubles, a triple, 9 bombs, 36 ribs, 7 stolen bases, 27 walks to 73 strikeouts, batting .286. He has an OBP of 374, a slug of 510, and an OPS of 884. Craziest part, too, is this kid is just a batting average machine. He's a career .283 batting average. He definitely has 25 to 30 home run upside, I think, in the future. Not this year, obviously. He has, enough speed to chip in at least 10 to 12 stolen bases throughout a season. The kid's upside is absolutely ridiculous. Second baseman, I might add. Connor Norby just checks all the signs and everything that I like when it comes to a prospect, down to, even though he's a smaller guy, still fits the frame of 5'10", 180 pounds. It's a big 5'10" guy. And I think he's going to be great going into his first taste of the bigs.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to hear about Norby as well. 6% owned on Yahoo at the moment. And he's getting the shot. Jorge Mateo hits the concussion IL. We hope for a quick return. You never want to hear concussion or any head injury is always, unwanted, any injury at that, to be honest with you. But kind of Norby getting his shot here. Matt read you off the very good stats. Mainly known for his power and the hit tool. I think, these 7 days, he's going to get a shot here. And if he takes the league by storm, which he very well might, you're not going to want to miss out on it. So do the pickup now. Second base eligible, as Matt mentioned, middle infield. He definitely at least worth a shot. Let's move on to somebody that we've actually talked about on the pod before, somebody that I like a lot. Let's talk some Ceddanne Rafaela of the Boston Red Sox. The Boston is, they got something in the water over there too, because they've, come up with a few good prospects over the last couple of years, and Ceddanne Rafaela is no exception. Numbers on the year aren't super, super sexy, but he's chipping in the power and speed. It's 59 games on the season for Rafaela, 201 batting average, 28 runs, 9 doubles, 2 triples, 7 homers, 33 RBIs, 8 steals, and he has only 8 walks to 58 strikeouts, not really a points league play with a 209 batting average. Rafaela is only 23, somebody that does have the prospect pedigree, especially over the last few years in the minors in 2023 and 2022. Really showed off the batting average with a 302 batting average in 2023, a 299 batting average in 2022 for Rafaela. Also, the speed's legit. The speed is very, very good for Rafaela. 36 steals, 28 steals, has a little bit of power as well. The batting average is something I think we could see him pull together, sooner than later. Has been a little bit hotter of late. The underlying stuff isn't super sexy, so I'm not relying on him to, maintain a crazy amount of power or anything like that. But once again, if you need some speed, Rafaela is somebody we could definitely take a look at. Let me just grab his ownership percentage for you guys. I don't think it's crazy at the moment. Last time I checked, 39% owned for Sedane. So go out there, give him a look. He had the two home run game on May 31st with 5 RBIs and a couple of 2-hit games here at the end of May. So as I said, heating up of late. Definitely could look his way if you need an outfielder or shortstop eligible player.
Yeah, no, he definitely is an interesting play this year. Well, everything you said, I completely agree with. And then I also have something else I have to talk about too. His last 2 weeks of production has just been bananas. 9 runs, 3 bombs, 10 ribs, 3 stolen bases, batting 267. At worst case, we're riding a hot hand. At best case, he starts showing off that prospect pedigree that Dom showed. The only thing I don't see that's going to be really true for Rafael in the long term is the batting average. I don't think it's ever going to hit like 290. I think it's going to be more like a 250 guy because of his, walk to strikeouts. I think he just in the minors was just so far advanced with his bat that it didn't matter when he struck out because he just hit the ball more times than he didn't. When you have 100 strikeouts to 26 walks, it's kind of ugly. But hey, this happens, right? Like look at Judge, look at Stanton, look at guys that were successful with those kind of strikeout numbers, still hitting about 270 to 290. But I think he's going to be more on the lower end of that, about a 250, but still going to be a valuable player in the future. But ultimately, add Sid Dane right now and ride him while he's hot. Let's move on. Let's talk about TJ Friedl. Hopefully, I said that right. A guy that was interesting, had a lot of people caught our eyes going into the season, until he had the injury, put him out for most of the year, but now is finally back. Has performed decently. Batting average isn't looking impressive, but I'm going to look past that a little bit because he just hasn't played in a long time. 36 at bats, 4 runs, a double, a bomb, 6 ribs, 3 stolen bases, and has walked 4 times and 9 strikeouts. Yes, I say he's batting a 167, OBP of 302, a slug of 278, an OPS of 580. Those total numbers aren't great, but I think Friedl has another level. Like you look at what he did last year, where he had the 18 home runs and 27 stolen bases, batted 279. Try and capitalize on him possibly bouncing back to what he had last year and what he did last year, I think is pretty feasible. He only had 488 at bats. I think he'll probably have about 400 this year if he's managed to stay healthy. So I think Friedel's a worth an add for sure. Definitely in stolen base category for sure, and possibly batting average.
Matt, great take there on Friedl. He's somebody that, as you mentioned, he can help us out in fantasy. And he's got, the leadoff spot, back of late last couple of games. Another guy that's coming back from a couple of different injuries. And I think he's somebody as he gets healthy, we see him, progress more towards the numbers we saw last year. I don't think he's somebody that we can necessarily count on for an amazing batting average, but I think the speed's legit. I think he's going to chip in some power in Great American Small Park there. At 28 years old, as a 27-year-old, not buying the huge breakout last year. But, if somebody, Matt, did you mention the ownership there for Friedl? I think 44%. Somebody that's out there in a bunch of leagues has upside. And I definitely think he can help our fantasy teams out. But before we move on and talk about a former number 1 pick, a couple interesting young pitchers, and much, much more, we do have a quick ad break for you guys.
It's winner takes all in NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home your own big win. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, live same game parlays against your team's rival. Just for betting against somebody you don't like, bet for somebody you like, bet on something that a team that you like. I mean, there is great odds out there right now where you could just hit it, where you could just say, even, okay, the teams are going to tie on total amount of hits. And the odds are pretty good. Last I checked, when I did the Yankee game, it was at like an 850 and plus 850. So honestly, that's great take home for you. If they do manage to pull that off, throw a $5 bet on it. Who cares? I might pay off. And if you do, might get $150 of bonus bets. So check it out. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on TV all day? Have you had to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or free on the Amazon Fire TV app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. Rely on our dynamic content this season and get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call-up notifications, injury reactions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of these fantasy leagues by joining the Diamond Club on Subtext, where your path to victory begins. Subscribe now, elevate that fantasy baseball experience to new levels, and new members get a free 2 weeks. So I promise you, you won't hate it. You're going to love it. You're going to stick around. So check us out on there. Links in the description below. But all right, Dom, hit this, please.
Yeah, let's talk about former #1 overall pick, Henry Davis. Henry Davis was originally a catching prospect, got moved over to outfield. And just as I mentioned, former, first pick of the 2021 draft by the Pittsburgh Pirates. Has a very good hit tool, known for his batting average, has a little bit of power, can chip in some steals here and there. And I really think he's going to break out. He's catcher and outfield eligible on Yahoo, but you're really going to want to use him at catcher. He's going to be back soon. He's right around the corner. Apparently he's getting called up as we're talking about it. Since he was optioned on May 3rd, he has hit .296 with 7 homers and 17 RBIs. And I really just think he's going to hit the ground running. It may be right away, maybe his first game or two, maybe not. Maybe those couple little adjustments still have to be made. But at 24 years old, I really think Henry Davis is somebody we can go out and add now. Because honestly, in those 2 catcher leagues, those deeper leagues, Henry Davis is only 8% owned, so he's out there in those types of leagues, those NL onlys. You really need to go and give Henry Davis the shot.
I mean, you know what? Like, I really do hope he hits the ground running. He's more of a speculative ad for me. I kind of had higher hopes coming into the season, especially after the spring he had. And you know what? Like, I'm not like out like that. I'm never out on a player just coming back, especially what they were doing in the minors right now. I don't remember if you read that off. Did you?
A little bit. I didn't hit everything.
Yeah, but I mean, like, just the fact that he's hitting 296 and 7 bombs kind of got me intrigued. And with the OPS to then back up the numbers, I kind of just am kind of like somewhat like excited, but at the same time, somewhat like super conservative about how much I want to add him. In shower leagues like 8, 10, I'm probably not touching him. 12, 14 man leagues. Hopefully he's out there. You can add him. So, go out there. Let's do a speculative ad and see what we could do here. Let's move on. Let's talk about Kevin Pillar. Pillar has been interesting. He's not like my favorite guy. He's 35 years old, already on a new team this year. And you know what? It is what it is with him. Right now, he's more of like a ride the hot hand kind of type deal. The last 2 weeks, 5 runs, 2 bombs, 5 ribs, batting .324. Last month has been great too. 15 runs, 5 bombs, 21 ribs, 4 stolen bases, batting .397. When a guy's having a month like this and looks like he's on the upward turn again, you kind of want to go out there, add him while he's performing, and then drop him like he's hot. It is what it is with Pilar. 39% owned. Go out there and get him outfield eligibility.
Yeah, man, you hit the nail on the head. It's a juice the orange situation here with Pilar. Get what you can out of him. Maybe even sneak him into a trade. I'm telling you, a guy like this is just a cherry on top. You're about to get a trade done. You need that one last piece. And you know what? I'll throw in Kevin Pilar. He's hitting 330, 6-6 when it comes to homers and steals. Sometimes something like that gets the deal done. I think that's what we're talking about when it comes to Pilar. Matt, you hit all the key points, the age and just that. I don't think we're going to see anything new here when it comes to Kevin Pilar. So pick him up now. He is currently still 39% owned. I think there's still a little bit of meat left on the bone here. So do your thing. Pick him up, and we'll ride the wave. Let's move into some starting pitching, though, the fun part of the episode. And let's talk about a New York Met. Let's talk about Tyler McGill. The thing with McGill is another guy who I feel like a little bit older. We know who he is. 32% owned on Yahoo. He's actually pitching as we talk right now against the Nationals. He hasn't given up a run yet. 3 strikeouts through 2.1 innings. But let's talk about that last start against the Dodgers, which was really, really impressive. He went 7 innings, got 9 strikeouts, didn't give up any earned runs, had an 0.57 whip. Obviously, that's a quality start. And he's just been good. I think his next start, actually, Matt, comes against those Phillies of yours. Your hometown Phillies there. I don't know if that's the one I'm going to go out there and necessarily, guarantee gold from. But, hey, it's at least good enough to ride the wave and see where things go with McGill.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm running anybody out against the Phillies, but if I'm in a pinch where, I lost Gallon, I lost it, and I just either got to get innings or I just need to get strikeouts at this point. McGill is definitely worth an ad. You guys are listening to this on a Tuesday. We'll see how it all plays out. Worst case scenario, if he's on a heater right now, you add him, you bench him, and if he does good against the Phillies, and then his next matchup is half decent, roll him out and see what happens. I can't really fault you for it, honestly. McGill has performed at times and been serviceable for at least a month or two stride.
Yeah, but, Matt, real quick, can I jump back in?
Yeah.
As I dive a little bit deeper here, there is one thing that kind of just really stands out about McGill, and maybe that's, the cause of some of his success this year. He's throwing a cutter. I don't see a cutter in his repertoire from last year, and, it's kind of a nice medium between his, true four-seam and his slider. Because last year he was throwing a four-seam at 95, slider at 84, not a lot of gap, that's a huge gap there. And kind of cutter is that bridging the gap pitch there, which is sitting at 91. Actually the four seam's up a whole mile an hour at 96, and then the slider is also up almost 3 miles an hour from McGill. So there actually might be some truth to this breakout here. I'm actually exciting myself a little bit as we talk about him, to be honest with you.
I don't know about long term. I mean, always seeing a pitcher add an extra pitch is kind of huge. So maybe that's what kind of is driving it. You might be right there, but I want to see a little bit more before I say, hey, I'm bought in on the long term. But again, add him now. If he performs against the Phillies, like I said, he's worth a hold and start for the next one, because you'd rather have him on your bench than him in somebody's starting lineup going against you. That's how I'm kind of approaching it. But
I agree.
I would normally say let's sneak this guy in, but it looks like we have to move on to the break here. So, guys, we got the rest of these starting pitchers. We got a young Atlanta pitcher. They're still trying to figure out who to replace Spencer Strider with. We got an awesome pitcher from Miami that's coming up, and a guy's name that's really, really hard to say and super long. We'll be back right after this.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for the winning championship is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, so let's hop back in here, brother. And you want me to grab this next guy?
I'll take this guy. He's another one that has a really, really fun name to say.
Spencer Schwellenbach.
Schwellenbach. That was somewhat close.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I totally blew that by a mile, but I mean, I guess you could kind of see it. Whatever. Oh, let's just go for it, right? So I'm gonna just say Spencer here. Spencer is interesting. Okay, he came up, got his first start in the bigs, did not perform well. Went 5 innings, got a 5.4 ERA, had 5 Ks, and you know, even had a whip of a 1.2. But you look at what his track record in the minors is, over the last 2 years: 45 innings pitched last year, 51 strikeouts, a 1.8 ERA. The year before, 65 innings pitched, 55 strikeouts, a 2.49 ERA. So the kid has somewhat of a history of performing well, and I could see why he was called up. Ultimately, I look at it like this: I'm running out there to go. I'm not running out there to like go and add him, make him like the guy. But the next start is at Boston, and yes, Devers has been great, and so has Rafael. But ultimately, that rest of that team does not scare me. So if he can get past those two and go 5 innings, he might be able to be out there and get successful, especially if his team get him in an early lead and get him to feel comfortable. Spencer could go out there and essentially be pretty successful and dominate this start. I kind of want to see if he can take the step forward and be that good, because then he might have some value for the next couple starts. We'll see.
Yeah, Matt. The thing with Schwellenbach is, the start actually wasn't as bad as the numbers really, showed. He threw a lot of strikes. It was only one walk. I think it was just some bad luck. I know it was against the Nationals team that he really should have dominated, but it's tough to come up for your first big league start. You got, a bunch of jitters on all that stuff going on. So I want to give the kid the benefit of the doubt. He has a good fastball, sits around 96, complements it with a curveball, also throws a slider. He really has a repertoire that if he comes up and, gets everything under control, I really think for a kid who didn't pitch, just totally skipped over AAA, he can see some success. But I think if this Boston start goes, south for Schwellenbach, that he's going to get sent back down, because I don't think the Braves are really going to want to mess around here too much. Even though the kid, as you mentioned, Matt, does have some prospect pedigree, I don't think Boston's going to give him too much of a leash here. He's 14% owned. Once again, that's Spencer Schwellenbach. Long last name. If you type in Spencer SCH, he'll pop up there. So, I think he's definitely worth the chance to at least grab him and see where things go for his next start. As Matt mentioned, pitchers just dropping like flies, so he's one that I think we can definitely at least give a shot for this next start. Let's move on to somebody who has a bit more, pedigree, a bit more success in the bigs. That's Mr. Braxton Garrett of the Miami Marlins. Somebody I actually really, really like. I'm surprised he's not more owned. 45% owned here for Braxton Garrett. He's somebody, as I said, we've seen him be good in the bigs before. Last couple of years. Coming back from an injury, the first two starts were bad, but then he had a 9-inning shutout complete game against the Diamondbacks on May 24th, picked up the win, 6 strikeouts, 0.44 whip. Then on May 29th, his last start, 5 innings, got the win against San Diego, only gave up a run, 2 strikeouts, a 1.20 whip. And, I think the back of the baseball card is kind of going to speak true here for Braxton Garrett the rest of the way. I don't think there's, another level here where he's going to, just be absolutely dominant. But you know what? Can he pitch to, a mid-3s ERA, that K per 9, with maybe like a 1.15 to like a 1.20 whip? I think he sure can, and I think that's going to be useful towards the back end of your rotation. So I do like me some Braxton Garrett.
Oh man, if he could start bouncing back to what he showed off last year, this kid's going to be the ad of the year. So, kind of like out of all these names, besides maybe like Norby and Raphael, he's the third most excited name I am for him. Uh, I love Garrett. He was going to be a top 40 pitcher if he was coming into the year healthy. So, yeah. But all right, let's move on. We got to get these last two names in here before we got to, dip out on here. Let's talk about a name that I actually can perform. It's just pronounced, but it's super long. That's Simon Woods-Richardson of the Minnesota Twins. So he's been like up and down, but he's been enticing in terms of how he's been performing. His last start against Houston at Houston wasn't great, but to be expected, right? Houston's just Houston. Had a 6.23 ERA, but through 4 innings, he did have six Ks. That's the bright spot on that start. The week before, he goes out against Kansas City, went 5 innings deep, had 4 Ks, a 3.6 ERA with a 1 WHIP. And the start before that, that's where I don't know where the K's just decided to disappear, only had one. But he's been up and down in terms of that. And you know what? I'm kind of intrigued for this next start at least. Looks like he might be able to skate past Yankees and then pretty much just get the next start at the end of the weekend. So I kind of would like to see who that is going to be when he's going to get the start and kind of like roll the dice here. If you're in a pinch towards the end of the weekend too, you're down in K's or you're down in something, Wood-Richardson might be able to go out there and at least, give you some bounce back in those categories that you may be down in. So again, I'm not running out there and I'm not super excited about him. He's lower on the priority list. I actually like the next guy a lot better in terms of that. But Simon Wood-Richardson is going to be A-okay if he gets a decent start.
Yeah, so with Woods-Richardson, he's only 23 years old, has had his, ups and downs in the minors. Actually made some, change. And other guys, I look at his repertoire. He didn't really pitch a lot last year. But seemed to be his changeup was his, secondary pitch. Has made some adjustments this year, throwing that slider a bit more, which has actually been super successful for Woods-Richardson, only getting hit at a 161 clip. Once again, that's his slider. And his next start, man, actually is against those Pittsburgh Pirates that have not been fantastic. That's a lineup that I think Woods-Richardson can go out there and pitch well against. And, might not be a long-term solution, but guess what? After he gets those Pirates, it looks like he lines up against Oakland. So we know he's at least good for 2 more starts. Wasn't great against Houston, but at least kept the whip down in his last one. So if he can at least help us in ERA from time to time, whip from time to time. I don't know if he's ever going to be a huge strikeout guy, so might not help us in that, but can pick up some wins here and there too on that Twins team. Woods-Richardson is 14% owned. I think we can look his way, especially if he missed out on some of the bigger names we talked about before. But let's move on to our last guy of the night, a name that if you've played fantasy baseball, you're familiar with, even if you just watch baseball. Mr. Dane Dunning gets those Detroit Tigers, I think, as you're listening to this. So if you have same day ads, you could pick him up. But you know what? On the Texas Rangers team, we know who Dunning is. He's been good before, on a little bit of a roll here of late. So actually, his last start was good. Let's leave it at that. His last start against the Diamondbacks was 5 innings, no earned, 6 strikeouts, picked up the win in that one. I think against the Tigers, if he could snag him, same day ads, he's safer there. Once again, maybe not a long-term solution, but he's been good before. Dane Dunning, 19% owned. Over that K per 9 on the season, and the 3.94 ERA isn't super sexy. Neither is the 1.20 whip, but that's serviceable.
Yeah, I mean, look, like there's some bright spots in just his, season numbers and his starts. He's getting you a K per 9, and if not a little bit over. He's suppressing the run. Obviously, I wouldn't roll him out there against the Phillies like he got lit up. But, in the right matchup, that there's a good chance he's going to catch the win and he's going to be able to go out and perform because he's on a good team. So Dane Dunning, honestly, is somebody that, yes, I'm going out rolling against Detroit. And if there's another good matchup following that, yeah, I'm going to roll him out against them as well. Obviously, we're not going to go against like the best teams in baseball where we're, luckily he's on one of them. So that's one less off the schedule for him. So Dane Dunning right now, I think, is a must add just based off of the fact that, won the matchup. 2, he's serviceable against, anywhere from, I would say, like a medium tough to easy matchup. Dane Dunning should pretty much be out there. and he's a good stream candidate for the pretty much the rest of the year until he shows me otherwise.
I agree.
But Dom, if you got nothing left to add, we'll get us out of here.
Yeah, I mean, just it's funny. I was looking at Dunning's repertoire. A guy throws every kind of pitch possible. So I guess that's what really keeps a guy like that alive when he doesn't really overwhelm with anything. But Matt, why don't you take us out of here?
Yeah, junk balls are the best. But anyway, guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, share us with your friends, share us with your mom, share us with your dad, share us with your little brother, share us with everybody. I promise you, share. And guys, we'll be back tomorrow with something fun. Maybe not. We'll see.